Hello everyone and welcome back to Legendary Lunacy. We are on to day number 3 of the Halloween countdown. If you're just joining us for the first time, thank you so much for clicking on the video. I hope you stick around and enjoy yourself here. If you're a return customer to the channel, thank you for coming on back. I've noticed we have 30 views so far on the first video, and I think 4 or 5 on the second video, which I'm very glad to see. We've got some people coming and checking us out. I also noticed that we got a couple more subscribers. I think I was at 11 and now I'm at 17. So that's really exciting. I wasn't expecting to get any new subscribers until like way later on, if I got any. So the fact that I've already gotten a couple now, I'm very, very grateful. Thank you so much. So if you're new to the channel and you've not seen any of my videos yet, basically what we're doing is we're throwing together some videos every day of October, trying to just have some kind of video out every day, so that by Halloween Day we'll have 31 videos out at least. Right now, we've only covered 2 different topics. First video we talked about some old horror stories I wrote back in high school and college. And then in the second video we talked about a video game, Left 4 Dead, which was a very fun game, very good like horror. But well, what we want to do, what we want to do is just find different topics to talk about, whether it's books, movies, video games, true crime. Just we want to have a different topic every day of the month, where we will talk in depth about something scary for Halloween month. Maybe we'll do more short stories. We can do some creepypastas. I love doing narrations. I'm hoping I can make a career out of doing that at some point. So if you guys like my voice, leave a comment down below, or like and subscribe, and just let me know that that's what you want more of, and I will do more of it. But yeah, so first things first, before we go on with the rest of today's video, I got a mask upgrade that I think you guys are going to like, and well, let me just change real quick and we'll see. My old mask is starting to crack, and I like collecting masks, and I figured, well, this one has served its purpose, so maybe we'll retire it for a little while at least. So we got this new Daft Punk-esque mask, which I do like how it feels. I need to get something to put down here, and then some of that anti-fog spray, because it is fogging up my goggles a little bit, or fogging up up here a little bit, but that's okay. So for today's topic, I thought, and I only had a little bit of extra time because I did do a little bit more, a little bit of research for this video, but mostly what that was just me going through one of the books on my bookshelf in my library, called The Field Guide to Monsters. It's just famous monsters from famous movies dating back to the teens of the 1919, 1918 era, so long time ago. Alrighty. So what I went ahead and did is I broke up the movie monsters into different classes. So the first movie monsters we're going to talk about are the iconic classics, going from the 30s up to around the 60s. And there might be a few outliers here and there, like some that were before then, or some that were just after that, but are still considered movie classic monsters. And then we'll go into talking more about the slash pack is what I call them, from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And again, there might be 1 or 2 outliers, but they're generally associated with that era. And then once we get through those, we'll go into the New Age horror, which I don't have as many of, and I'll explain why when we get to that point, but it'll be a little bit before we get there. So without further ado, we'll go right into, so what I'm going to do is I'll say what the monster is, and if I've seen the movie or if I've not seen the movie, I'll just do a little elaborating about it. If I have any fun facts or anything, I'll talk about that. So, without further ado, we'll start with the iconic classics. The first one to come up The Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954 is when it first appeared. It can't be right. Hang on. I might have already screwed up and put the wrong date. No? Yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. I did write some notes on it. The fish man with a weakness for bikini babes. Yeah, so the Creature from the Black Lagoon is a movie monster that's usually kind of glossed over. People don't really think about that when they think about, like, classic movie monsters. Usually go for, like, the main three, which we'll talk about in here, which I would consider the main four. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Wolfman, and the Mummy. Usually, Creature from the Black Lagoon gets overlooked. But I would say he is considered one of the iconic classic monsters. The Fly, 1958, was a scientist who's... I can't remember exactly in the original Fly what was happening. If it was teleportation or it was some kind of machine that... in the classic Fly, it swapped the scientist's head and right arm with that of a fly. So the fly got his head and his right hand, and the man got the fly's head, but it was like giant sized, and it's giant pincer claw thing. And spoiler alert, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil it now. I mean, it's over 50 years old, so if you've not seen it yet, it's your fault. At some point, he is driven mad because he's like, oh no, I'm a monster, I'm a creature, and he tries to fix it and he can't fix it, and so he convinces his wife to kill him by crushing his head and hand in a hydraulic press, because he's like, no one should know what happened, and it's really sad. And the really depressing thing, if I remember right, the little fly with his head and hand ended up getting swatted by someone with a fly swatter, so it was like, oof. Like, there was nothing he could have done. Next, The Invisible Man first appeared in 1933. I wrote easily lost at parties. God, I'm hilarious. Scientist who discovered invisibility, he ends up going mad with greed and power. It starts out as like he's just a scientist trying to invent or create something, and he goes after invisibility as like, oh, this, if I can figure this out, it'll be great. And eventually he's like, he becomes a madman. He becomes a madman about it, which is depressing. He gets him killed. Next is Frankenstein's monster. You know, there's a quote. It's intelligence is knowing that Frankenstein is the doctor, not the monster. Wisdom is knowing that the doctor is the monster in the story. Saying like the creation is not. But if you've not heard of him, Wendigoon is a YouTuber who is phenomenal. I love his channel. He does amazing things. He does a very in-depth discussion. A very in-depth discussion on the story of Frankenstein. Talking about the second edition book, novelization, and the Junji Ito story, but goes over the entirety of the storyline from beginning to end. And his explanation of the story is amazing. I love the way he goes into it. But his analysis at the end is technically they're both the monster. I mean, obviously Frankenstein's monster is a monster. But the Doctor is also a monster, because, I mean, look at how they act in the entirety of the story. Yes, the creation was innocent in origin when he was born. He was created, and he was shunned, and he didn't deserve the way he was treated. But just because he didn't deserve the way he was treated doesn't mean he should go around killing people. It's just, yeah, they're both horrible. And, yeah, it's just... Great story. Definitely recommend Frankenstein. Also, to my teacher, Mrs. Fangman, I will record the audiobook for that soon. Maybe I could start the audiobook during Halloween. We'll see. I will get it done, I promise. Just gotta find the book. Next up, we've got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Oh, also, side note, for the Frankenstein, in here, for Frankenstein's monster, I wrote 1931. I believe that's when the first Frankenstein monster movie, or Frankenstein movie came out. Frankenstein dates back way before that with Mary Shelley. Anyways, I digress. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, similar to Frankenstein, comes from an older story. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is about a scientist who creates this serum to, like, basically become another person. I'm just paraphrasing a little bit. But when Dr. Jekyll takes the serum, he becomes Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll is a very quiet, reserved, respectable man of, like, upper crust. And Mr. Hyde's, like, a brash, brutish, uncontrollable, horrible person. And after he starts taking the serum to become Mr. Hyde and kind of get away with whatever he wants, he starts transforming without the serum. So he has to create a serum to make himself stay as Dr. Jekyll. And the way the story ends, again, spoiler alert, but this one's over 100 years old, so come on, dude, get with the times. He starts running out of serums to keep himself as Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde becomes the permanent personality, which is depressing, but yeah. Phantom of the Opera, 1925. I don't remember if the musical came first, which I think was an opera. I don't know if the opera came first, or if it was based on the 20s movie. I think the opera came first. I should know this, I'm a theater person. Hang on, let me Google it real quick. Phantom of the Opera. The book came first in 1910. So, much like the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and all them, was before the movie. Like, they originated way back when. The movie, I've not seen the movie. I've seen, like, photos of the creature in the movie, and he's pretty grotesque looking. I actually saw Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. Wasn't my favorite. It was good. I liked it. I think the best scene, in my opinion, is the ending. I love the ending. But also the stairwell at the party when he possesses the suit of armor, I believe it is. Love that scene. That, or the very opening when the chandelier swings out over the audience. I heard somewhere that I think Phantom of the Opera is no longer on Broadway. I think it's finally left Broadway, which has not... It's been on Broadway for years. Dracula, 1931. Again, like Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Phantom, it predates movies, but that was its first movie appearance. Dracula was the iconic vampire prior to vampires becoming a sex symbol. I mean, hey, if you're into Dracula back then, it's more power to you. That's the thing. It's just before it became the commonplace to want to screw a vampire. But Dracula is, if I remember right, the inspiration for Dracula is just Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Dracul. Very scary man from way back when. Kind of a psycho. But c'est la vie. Dracula is very iconic. I will say, so I've read Frankenstein and I've read Dracula, and growing up I was more of a Dracula fan than a Frankenstein fan. Having read them both, I think I like Frankenstein's book better than Dracula's book. I'm not saying I dislike Dracula's book. Dracula's the writing style for Dracula was just a lot more strange. It was done more as like how found footage movies are. It was like that, but with writing. Like they had used different styles of writing. Like the opening is like a news report. Like, hey, so and so, there's these people who were found drained of blood on a boat or something. It's been years since I've read it, but yeah, it was a little different than I was expecting. So I liked Frankenstein more than I liked Dracula. Nosferatu, 1922. He was the original Dracula. I think he was scarier, in my opinion. He had the two fangs on the front of his face and the very long fingers, the bald head, and the big pointy ears. He was creepy looking. They actually made a movie about the making of Year, I think, or so. Can't remember how to spell it. And I've not seen it. I believe it has Willem Dafoe in it. But like in the movie, The Vampire, about the making of Nosferatu. I can't remember when exactly it came out. It's like the guy who plays Nosferatu, Count Orlok, in the movie about the movie. This is getting way too meta, and it's starting to confuse me. But so the movie is about a vampire. It's like the origins of Dracula. Then there's a movie that was made years later about making that original movie from the point of view of the filmmakers in the 20s. And they're like, oh, well, the guy who plays Dracula is actually a vampire. And they're like, no, he's not. And then he kills half the cast. It is weird, but it's a good movie. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but it's been a long time. Oh, man. Yeah, this mask, I need to get some anti-fog because, holy crap, it's also getting very, very steamy in here. Another of the iconic classic movie monsters, Wolfman, 1941. It was like one of the first werewolf movies that saw mainstream success. Funny thing, in the book, the Monsters Untold, it says like it has relatives and like size charts and comparisons and stuff, and it talks about Hugh Jackman being a relative because of his stint as Wolverine, which it's silly, but I just think it's kind of funny. 1932, The Mummy. I think it was Boris Karloff, I think, was The Mummy. But another iconic movie monster from way back when. Didn't matter how fast you ran, the mummy could walk faster. And he just shambled towards you. Well, it was pretty good. I think that's it for the iconic classics. So with those, I would say it's kind of like a Justice League of monsters. The Superman would probably be Frankenstein. He's probably the most... If you think of... Whenever someone says, who are the classic movie monsters? Like, from original Hollywood. Like, from classic Hollywood. Your first one's probably going to be, it's Frankenstein. And then the Dark Knight would be... Like, your Batman would be Dracula. Duh. Then your Wonder Woman would probably be... Probably Wolfman. It'd be those three would probably be like the Trinity of classic movie monsters. That would be a fun... Isn't there a Monster Squad, like a movie where it's like classic movie monsters, but they're like, oh, let's hire the Monster Squad. It's really, really funny. I'm starting to see a lot more comparisons. Creatures in the Black Lagoon is Aquaman from like the what is it, the 70s cartoon. So everyone just gives him crap. It's like, what do you do? Oh, I just swim. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's like Martian Manhunter. Now I'm just nerding out over like, I'm imagining a Justice League comic book, but with the classic movie monsters. It would be intense, very interesting. But with that, we are on to the next category, the slash pack, 70s, 80s, and 90s. First, when I was going through the list, I was kind of keeping to like a organization. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I did the aquatic ones first on this one as well. So first up, we got Piranha, 1978. Carnivorous fish intent on ruining the beach. I didn't realize Piranha actually came out in the first Piranha movie was in the 70s. Just because there was so much buzz around that, which I guess it's the remake, but the one with Christopher Lloyd plays a part in it, which it was the first one I saw, and I really enjoyed it. Because it was one of those horror movies where you just turn your brain off and just enjoy it. Possibly the more iconic of the aquatic horror movie monsters, which is it's interesting that like each generation kind of had an aquatic movie monster. 1975, Jaws, and several other releases in the same kind of story. It was like Jaws, Son of Jaws, Jaws returns, Jaws is back, watch out for Jaws, Jaws is here. So many Jaws. Sorry. I had to click out of the thing. So Jaws was the man-eater. It was a great white shark in the film. And actually, the movie Jaws had a horrible impact on the oceans. A lot of fishermen and people decided to start killing great white sharks preemptively to like fight back against the sharks. And they weren't that big of a problem, and it ended up we decimated some of the shark population. And I think as of like 2020, they're slowly starting to come back a little bit. Not much, but yeah. One thing I found really interesting, when I was in high school, I did a research paper on Jaws, and statistically, Jaws was most likely, like the shark that, if it was a real shark, would most likely not be a great white, but would actually be a bull shark, which I find more terrifying, because bull sharks can also swim in fresh water instead of salt water, which, like, due to flooding in Australia, there have been several lakes where people have actually been attacked by bull sharks in the lake where they think they should be safe, and they're not because the ocean's flooded. It's scary. It scares the hell out of me. But next up, we got 1983, Cujo. I just wrote Bad Dog, Bad Bad Dog. In the movie Cujo, I think it's based on a Stephen King movie. Dog is a good dog. It's a very friendly dog. And he's bitten and goes rabid. And attacks several people, kills a lot of people, and it's really scary. I never could take the movie Cujo seriously. It never really scared me because Saint Bernards are just too damn adorable. I can never think of them as aggressive and mean. In all the old Looney Tunes cartoons, they're like the dogs that they put the keg of rum or keg of whiskey on them and send them out into the wilderness to like save people from winters. And then there's Beethoven. You know, I just can't imagine that dog being a villain. I'd probably die. Next up is one of the, well, in my list at least, it's one of the first remakes we get, really. The Brundlefly with Seth Brundle from 1986. It's like the Fly, but worse, in my opinion. It goes more into body horror. The Brundlefly is, Seth Brundle is like a scientist who he writes up plans to create a teleporter and gets funding to make it, and has some other people do like the science behind it. But he builds the teleporter in his apartment, which, number one, dude had a kick-ass apartment. Number two, why would you build the teleporter there? Go off-site. Go somewhere safe. It's like, I'm going to build this. Going to be radioactive? Who knows? Wonder if my neighbors will care. But so he creates this teleporting machine. Gina Davis is in this movie too. It's Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. And he designs it. And he's like, oh well. To go through the when he decides that he wants to test it on himself, instead of like waiting or taking it somewhere where he could test it safely, he just says, I can't wear my clothes because if I wear my clothes through the machine, they'll meld with my body, my DNA. And so he strips naked and goes through the teleporter. But I mean, with no like safety net or plastic to keep anything. I don't know. There's a word I'm trying to think of. Decontamination. There's no decontamination in the area. So just so happens a fly gets into the machine with him, and he teleports through the teleporter with the fly, and doesn't realize at first. And just starts to develop more fly-like capability until he just eventually starts to morph and like he gets stronger. And then he's like, oh, this is cool. And then his sex drive gets crazy, and he ends up leaving his girlfriend because she's like, there's something wrong with you. You should probably get checked out. And he's like, no, I'm fine. I just have an insane libido, and now I'm vomiting on my food, and now I want to fly and crawl on the wall, and I want to eat this garbage. I don't know what's up. He has all these insane things that are like, you sound like a fly, man. And he's like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Delicious. I'm totally fine. What could go wrong? That movie, I love the movie, don't get me wrong. The Fly with Jeff Goldblum is one of my favorite like body horror movies. But my God, man, look for the signs of something happening bad after a science experiment. Because he does the experiment alone. And it's just, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot that goes into it. Now we have like our first slasher. Um, 1980s, the hockey mask enthusiast himself, Jason Voorhees. Jason is a deformed boy who goes to summer camp when he's a kid and drowns. Well, his spirit comes back. Actually, okay, so spoiler alert. In the first movie, Friday the 13th, which, fun fact, we have a Friday the 13th in October this month. I'm going to do something special for that. We'll see what we do, but it's going to be fun. In the first movie, you never see Jason's face. Like, the entire time, it's you don't really know who it is. You see someone's killing off the counselors. And at the very end of the movie, spoilers, at the very end of the movie, it's revealed that it's not Jason, it's Jason's mom. Most people don't realize that the very first Friday the 13th Jason movie isn't about Jason. It's not. It's about him. It's not a Jason movie. It's his mom doing the killing. His mom has come back to the camp to kill all the counselors. And one thing that's really funny, though, if you go back and watch it, it is an older movie, and there's a lot of little things that you can notice, like the hands, I believe, in, like, when you see Mrs. Voorhees, I was gonna say Jason, but Mrs. Voorhees killing people, I think they're man hands. I think it's like the director doing the killing. I think, I'm not sure. If it's not, no offense to Mrs. Voorhees, I think your hands are beautiful. They're gorgeous. But then there's like when spoiler again, when Mrs. Voorhees dies, it's the last counselor swings a machete at her and hits her in the head and chops her head off. Well, you see her bring the machete down, and just as it's about to hit, it cuts away and it cuts back, and you just see the head go flying, and then the machete goes over the neck. So it's like they did a quick shot and it just didn't quite work. Like, if you watch it real quick, you don't notice it, but if you go back and you watch it again, it's like, oh, the head came off before the machete went through. It's just kind of funny. But yeah, so Jason's not even in the first movie. He's not I mean, he is at the very end. It's like a dream sequence. It's like, oh, did it really happen? We don't know. Another thing, Jason is in the second movie, but he doesn't have his iconic mask. In the second movie, he just has a potato sack mask, I believe. Like Strangers, which I should have put on this list. They are iconic. Jason doesn't get his hockey mask until I think halfway through the third movie, which is really kind of interesting. It's an interesting fact that did not. I mean, more people know it now because it's become like it's an interesting factoid. But it's not a lot of people knew it for a while. It was just everyone was just like, oh yeah, Jason, from the first Friday the 13th. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling now. Next up, we got Michael Myers, 1978. Halloween was the first movie with him. Similar to the Friday the 13th, I mean, Michael Myers was the villain in the first Halloween movie. He definitely was. But the origins of the Halloween movies was each Halloween movie was going to be, each individual movie would be a different story. That's why Halloween 2, Season of the Witch, Michael Myers isn't in it. He has nothing to do with Halloween Season of the Witch. And it's also why that movie kind of did not do as well. Some people didn't like it. I've not seen it. I need to see it. Which I think is a cool idea. Looking back on it now, I think that'd be a really fun idea. Each Halloween release a new movie titled Halloween, but have it be a different horror story. It's kind of cool. Just have a horror anthology, like Trick or Treat, which I didn't put that one on here because I don't think it's. I don't know if I'd consider it iconic or even part of the Slash Pack. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it qualifies. It's trying a lot. But no, after Season of the Witch did not do so well, there was a big change, and people will decide to bring Michael Myers back for the next one. Next, 1999, The Mummy. So we had Boris Karloff, the original Mummy, with shambling mummy through the temple and everything, yada yada. But then we have the 1999 Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Say what you will about the man, but he is muy caliente. Great man, great actor. Very big fan of his. Brendan Fraser, if you ever see this, please, I love you. It's probably one of my favorite movies. That and the Indiana Jones series. I mean, you can tell kind of what I like. Those are two of my favorite franchises. I mean, I love the Star Wars franchise, but those two, Indiana Jones and the Mummy, are tied really well, like closely together. They're very iconic and good to me. Next, 1982, The Thing. It's probably the greatest body horror movie. Alien crash lands in the Arctic near a station where there's a group of people. I'm getting tired. Where there's a group of workers and they are attacked by it, and it begins taking over different forms when it consumes you. The thing that always frightened me is like some of them like seem to not realize like they were part of the thing, but they seem like they didn't know it. And I was like, oh, is that just the thing pretending to be them, or like do they really not? Are they sentient, but like still a part of the thing? Like, do they know they're like? I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, this? I don't know. Another YouTuber I love is Meat Canyon, and there's I think it's a couple or several videos where Meat Canyon and Wendigoon, the guy I was talking about earlier, they do a collaboration where they talk about their favorite horror movies. Definitely go check that out if you've not seen it before. If you've not heard of these guys, go watch both their stuff. Meat Canyon does hilarious but terrifying horror videos with like grotesque animations. Awesome, hilarious things, and scary things. I never thought I'd be scared of Peppa Pig, but goddamn, he knows how to make you scared of Peppa Pig. And they both have really good opinions on different movies. They cover several of these, I'm sure. Talk about like the best movies to watch before Halloween, I think. Next for the slash pack, 1980s from The Shining, Jack Torrance. Jack Nicholson is terrifying when he wants to be. He is definitely terrifying. Great movie. Stephen King did not like the adaptation. He said it's an okay movie. It is not The Shining, though. It's not The Shining I wrote. I think it's a great movie. I need to read The Shining all the way through. I've read bits and pieces, but... next, Hannibal Lecter, 1986. Hannibal Lecter's... Everyone thinks his first movie was Silence of the Lambs. It actually was not. It was Manhunter in 86. I love Silence of the Lambs. Also, if you go back and watch Silence of the Lambs, aside from when he like does the sniff thing, I believe, he does not blink at all while the camera is on him. Also, I don't know if it's urban legend or not. It sounds like an urban legend thing. Supposedly, his wife, after filming Silence of the Lambs, was so petrified of his portrayal that's why they ended up splitting up. I don't know if that's true or not. If it's not, I'm sorry. That's not my place to talk about. But I remember someone telling me that, and I was like, that can't be real. And then I looked it up, and I can't remember what the website was, but some people were like, it's supposedly that's the thing. She was terrified of him. So it's like, dude was so good at acting, it ruined his relationship, which is scary to think about. That's why Anthony Hopkins is one of my favorite actors. He knows how to commit to a role. Next, we got Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, Leatherface. Widely considered one of the most iconic slasher villains after Jason and Michael and some of the others in here. Leatherface. I believe the movie only had like a $600,000 budget or something. It was something really small compared to other movies back then, and the movie just blew up. Blew out of the water. It was insane. Leatherface is terrifying in my opinion. It's a big dude who wears the skin of others. I don't think you ever see his face in the franchise. Maybe in like the prequel, which I've not seen. I've only heard bad things. Next up, we got Norman Bates, 1960. Psycho. Again, that one would, like, era-wise, would usually be associated with classics. You could probably consider it a classic, too. I usually lump it in with slashers because it's kind of what it gets associated with, is the slasher flick. Norman Bates, I like Hitchcock. It's a good movie. Very great story. Terrifying, really. Very frightening. Sorry, I'm kind of smoking through some of these because the older ones I feel like not a lot of people knew about, and I didn't go super in depth on most of them. But some of these I'm just kind of like, most people know what they are. And if you don't, just Google the name with the date and it'll pull up whatever movie, and you can go watch that. I would recommend watching all of these. Everyone I've mentioned so far is, I think, a decent movie. If I've not seen it, I've heard about it and I know enough about it. But most of these I've seen. Next is a little more sci-fi than horror, but it is definitely terrifying. 1984, The Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He comes in and does the whole robot to kill you thing, and it's freaky. It's definitely freaky. Yeah, if a giant Arnold Schwarzenegger came to kill me, there's not a damn thing I could do about it. I'm screwed. Can I get your autograph? I'm dead. I don't like a lot of the newer ones that have come out. I'm not a big fan of. I will say, seeing a de-aged Eddie Furlong get axed in the new movie in like the first 10 minutes was very, very shocking. I was not expecting it. I'll give him that. 1987, The Lost Boys. I think it was either that or it was Interview with a Vampire was the big turning point in which people they weren't afraid of vampires anymore. They wanted to be laid by vampires. And The Lost Boys was so for me, that was the first movie I saw where I was like, oh, vampires are sex symbols now. Interesting. Definitely threw me for a loop, because the very first vampire movie I think I saw was probably Underworld or something. And I was like, ooh, that's scary. Or 30 Days of Night, that was one. The vampires in that movie are terrifying. Very freaky. But no, Lost Boys. If you've not seen that one, go watch that one. That's a good vampire movie. Next, we got 1992, Candyman. I've actually not seen Candyman, but I do know a really cool fact. So there's a scene in Candyman where Candyman, like, summons bees or something. I can't remember. But, like, the bees crawl out of his mouth. And it's really hard to make that without doing a practical effect. And so they talked to the guy who played Candyman, and he made a deal. The dude is a genius. He said, okay, and I can't remember the amount, but it was like a decent. I think it was like $100 per bee sting. So he's already getting paid to be the main character, the main villain of the movie. And he said, I'll do it. I'll have the bees crawl out of my mouth, but for every time I get stung, I want an extra. I think it was like $100 or $200 or something. And he ended up making an extra like 4 figures, extra 5 figures or something, just for this scene, for this one shot that had all the bees coming out. Because he got like stung like 20 some times or something. It was some ridiculous. And I'll Google it real quick. Candyman. And my lens is fogging up. I can't see anything. Candyman bee sting contract. Okay, it was more than I thought. Authentic bees were utilized in the 1992 movie. Todd negotiated an agreement wherein he would receive an additional $1,000 for each bee sting endured. Yeah, insane. Resulting in a total bonus of $23,000, given there were 23 stings in total. Could you? I mean, I couldn't imagine getting stung 23 times, but if I'm getting $1,000 per bee sting, I would almost encourage the bees to sting. I mean, I don't. Well, maybe not. I've never been stung by a bee, and my dad is allergic, so. Or not allergic, but he puffs out. I guess yeah, he's a little allergic. Not bad though. Then again, that was years ago. He might have gotten out of it. I don't know. But yeah, no, bees, insane. Or no, it wouldn't be something else. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, it's a fact I know about a movie I've not seen yet. I need to watch it, but like, the dude, smart, make the money. If you're gonna get stung by a bee, get paid for it. Next, 1988, we've got Chucky with Child's Play. Classic movie. I'm not the biggest Chucky fan. When I saw it when I was a kid, I was a little terrified. A serial killer, I believe, is on the run from the cops. Gets chased into a toy store and gets shot and is bleeding to death. So he performs a satanic ritual to send his soul into the whatever he has near him, and he chooses a doll called the Good Guy's doll, I believe is what it's called. and then the doll gets put back in the box and sold. Which, okay, if the dude bleeds to death and the cops find him inside clutching a doll, covering the thing in blood, maybe don't wash it and put it back on the shelf to sell. Maybe you stick that thing in lockup, because the mass murderer who did some satanic ritual with blood probably had something to do with that. Maybe not a good idea. But yeah, so then the doll goes on to kill a lot of people, which just kind of makes you wonder, can't you just punt a doll? I mean, it's the size of a toddler. Can't you just... I mean, don't punt toddlers, but it shouldn't be that hard. Next, 1988, Beetlejuice. Going into more like the dark comedy kind of thing. Take a new take on the afterlife, with more humor and some scares. One of my favorite roles by Michael Keaton. Beetlejuice. Ooh. A sexy skeleton just walked into the room where I'm filming. Babe, do you want to show off your skills? My lady is practicing her makeup artistry. Very good.
I'm wearing glasses. Oh, shit. So.
That's good. I love skeletons.
I'm gonna go take this off now.
Okay. You look great, baby. Beetlejuice. He's a bio-exorcist in the film. He's a demon who can exorcise houses of the living. But since he's a demon, he kind of does whatever the hell he wants anyways. So don't trust him. Next up, 1984 with Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. I always liked Freddy. He's a horrible person and a killer. And in the new movie, I think a pedophile as well. Which, that probably just got me demonetized. But I mean, this is episode 3, like, of all time. So it's not like I'm making the big bucks anyways. I like Jackie Earle Haley as the new Freddy. I don't think they needed to make the character any darker. I mean, they could have just taken... Like, they wanted to make him more serious, which I think Jackie Earle Haley did. He nailed that role. I don't think they need to add that whole storyline, like him actually abusing the kids. But, I mean, definitely made it darker. That's for sure. But no, that movie... The original guy Robert Englund, I also liked as Freddy. I think he was good too. I just think as the series went on, they made him less scary and more comedic, which, I mean, is fine. But since they made him less scary and more comedic, it was fine. Just stop being like a slasher for me and more being like, ooh, one-liners, and I mean, it is what it is. Don't get me wrong, if God forbid if Robert Englund ever sees this, I'm not trying to insult you, or even Wes Craven. I don't know if Wes Craven's still alive. But I'm not trying to, like, rag on the movies. It's just, for me, I liked him better when he was scary. Like, New Nightmare. It's the last one, I believe, with Robert Englund as Freddy. It goes, like, more meta, to where the character of Freddy comes to life and actually terrorizes Robert Englund as Robert Englund in the film. And the actress who played the main girl in the first movie. The series is weird. Go ahead and watch that one, too. Speaking of, Chandler Moore. Don't know if you remember me, but thank you for letting me borrow your box set. I watched that like 3 times when you lent it to me. I think you told me you didn't like Wes Craven's A New Nightmare, but that was one of my favorite ones. So thanks for letting me borrow it. Next, 1984, Gizmo/Gremlins. The Gremlins movies! If you've not heard of Cracked.com, I'm doing a lot of plugs today, I don't know why. If you've not heard of Cracked.com, look up Cracked.com. They're funny. They've laid off a bunch of their workers, which, I mean, I don't know the business well enough to know why. I was really bummed that they let go of so many of them. But, like, they're also doing their own thing now. Like, Daniel Bryan's doing his own thing. And still, my favorite thing about Cracked.com was always After Hours. It's like Daniel, Michael, Soren, and Katie. Those are like my favorite people in Cracked to kind of catch up with. But they do a bunch of bits talking about different movies and stuff. And their take on the Gremlins is really hilarious. Go check it out. Cracks.com After Hours. Gizmo Gremlins Growing Older. And it's really funny. But, I mean, go watch all of After Hours. It's like 90-some videos. Definitely worth your time. Well, I mean, after you've watched all of my videos. Thank you. 1987, Pinhead. Pinhead and the Cenobites from Hellraiser. Hellraiser's a freaky movie. It's another, like, body horror. Like, this dude is looking for the ultimate pleasure, so he finds a demon puzzle box in some off Middle East place, does the puzzle box, and it summons demons from hell. They're called pain angels or some shit. And they how do I put it? They show you pleasures beyond understanding through immense pain. And much like the other slashers of this era, after multiple sequels, it just keeps going. Goes on and on and on. It's ridiculous. Also, 1987, The Predator was the first Predator movie, and I feel like I've liked every Predator movie, but I feel like every other Predator movie is good. Like all the odd number ones. So the first one, the third one, the fifth one are all great. The second one, fourth one, and sixth one are okay. And it's nothing against, like, each of the even ones had its own problems, and I think that's why. Like, the first one, amazing. Second one, the only complaint I had, I mean, I don't even think I had complaints. It was like the sequel slump kind of thing. First one was great. The second one was different. I liked the city aspect. I thought it was cool. I didn't like how the second Predator wasn't as honorable. Where like the first Predator only fought when like you're armed. Like he followed the Yautja, I believe is how you pronounce it, the species of alien. He followed the Yautja code of honor, and the second one didn't really. Which I think it would have been cool for the second one if we have another honorable hunter, but then like we also learn more about the Yautja, where it's like there's all because like in the comics it goes into all that, and it's bizarre. Like there's so much more intricate things that we don't really see in the movies. But like you find out there's something called like space. So I gotta hurry up. I almost have storage space. But yeah. Anyways, I can go in depth on the Predators another time. 1996, Ghostface, the Scream series. Another one of those. I think it's kind of running out of steam at this point. It's just kind of gone, and it's okay. I like the first one. Second one's okay. I will say, I actually started to kind of mix up Scream and scary movies, like the sequels and everything. So that tells you everything you need to know. Deadites, 1981, Evil Dead, and so on. The Deadites are good. Dakota Alvord, you got me hooked on Evil Dead. Like I think I'd seen parts of it before. But you got me hooked on it, and hooked on Bruce Campbell. So thank you. I believe that's everything for slashers. The slash pack gets us into the New Age, which I've only got 4. One thing I feel like with New Age, the big problem is not a whole lot of like different kinds of monsters per se. A lot of new horror movies are like killers and stuff, which I mean, some of those in the slash pack were just killers, but still, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of iconic monsters or stuff. And if there is, maybe I just haven't seen it. I've not been up to date on a lot of new horror movies. I need to watch more. But the 4 that came to mind, 2001, The Creeper, Jeepers Creepers, go watch that movie. The second one as well, if you haven't. They're both amazing, in my opinion. First one gave me nightmares for weeks. Second one did too, especially the shower curtain scene. You'll know what I mean when you see the movie. Yeah, that scene gave me nightmares. 1998, Blade. Wesley Snipes was apparently tough to work with on the third Blade movie, but like his portrayal of Blade in the first 2, impeccable, amazing. Also, a lot of people crap on Ryan Reynolds' character in the third movie. I really enjoyed his character. I liked all 3 of them, but like I don't know. That was just fun fact. Blade was really good. I'm running out of space on my computer, so I'm kind of rushing through these last four. I need to get a new computer. Next up, 2004, The Jigsaw Killer. I love the first three. The first four, really. Fourth one's eh. The first two are amazing. Third and fourth movie are eh. Fifth movie, the ending kind of I wasn't a huge fan of. But like it is what it is. The entire series is what it is. They've got some new ones coming out. I've been watching them just because it's like, you know, I've seen the originals and I've seen all the sequels, so I just kind of want to keep caught up. But like it is definitely gore porn, like they say. Last but not least, Abe Sapien and Hellboy, 2004. I liked the remake. I think it was 2019 when that one came out. With David. I think it's David. No, it's. I can't remember the guy who plays the chief, the police officer, the sheriff in Stranger Things. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. He was good. I liked him as Hellboy. He was a younger Hellboy, and I get it. But dude, Ron Perlman is Hellboy, and like he's been saying he wants to come back to finish the trilogy, and everyone's like, he's too old now. It's like, well, he wore prosthetics and stuff, and I think he can. I think he can finish off his trilogy, even if we need to use a little bit of like movie magic. Don't make the whole thing CGI, but you know what I mean. Like we can figure it out to make Ron Perlman's final movie. And Abe Sapien was great too. I love both of those characters. I thought it was interesting that two of my four in the modern day category were comic book heroes. But yeah, so that's my list of horror movie monsters, like iconic horror movie monsters, dating back to like the teens of the 1900s up to now. And if there's any I missed, put them down in the comments below. I'm always down to learn more. Those are just the ones I knew about from the book. Like when I saw them, I was like, oh, that's iconic. Oh, that one I know. Oh, that one's iconic. There's a couple like Tarantulas and the Eight-Legged Freaks. Not a great movie, but they are pretty well known. I could have put them in there. That was 2002. I guess that one would have been in the modern. Then there's like the kaijus. I'll probably do a whole video on kaijus. But like Godzilla, King Kong, Rodan, Ghidorah. King Ghidorah, my apologies. But yeah, all those monsters and stuff. Yes, I'm about out of space on my laptop. I need to clear up some space. But there's just, I need to get my camera working as well. But if you've stuck around this long, thank you so much. I noticed, thank you for subscribing, those of you who have. I know I've gone up, I think, 5 subscribers, or 6 even. And I've gotten several views, which thank you so much. I mean, I know it's compared to some of the other YouTubers, it's not a lot, but to me it means the world. Because like I was not expecting to get any more subscribers until like way later, and I just started doing this on a whim. And so like if there's any ideas or any comments you guys have, go ahead and put them in the comments below. I'll also put a dislike comment down there, so if you don't like my videos, go ahead and like that dislike comment, and it'll let me know, okay, I need to do something different, I need to change, and give me some pointers if you have ideas on what to change for me. Just let me know. But I think that's going to do it for us this time. If you have any comments, questions, anything like that, just remember that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you are cared for. And I thank you so much for watching. Totally random. I want to do one more plug. Go check out every channel I mentioned in here. Wendigoon, Meat Canyon. I think I mentioned another one too. I can't remember off the top of my head. Go check them out. Their videos are amazing. I listen to them all the time when I work. They keep me so entertained. Great creators, and I aspire to someday, maybe someday I can do a collaboration with one of them. That would be so much fun. I'd have a blast. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for keeping up to date. I hope you enjoyed tonight's video. And we'll see you again tomorrow. And remember, sit back, relax, and enjoy the darkness around you. Have a great night. I love you guys.